The battle begins. So could Napoleon actually defeat the US Army? Not with better weapons, but with better decisions. Let's imagine the impossible. Both sides have access to exactly the same modern technology, the same drones, the same satellites, the same vehicles, the same weapons. The only difference is the commander. Most people assume modern warfare is won by firepower. Napoleon would disagree. He believed wars were won long before the first shot was fired. If your enemy is confused, hesitating, and reacting instead of acting, the battle is already yours. The first thing Napoleon would attack wouldn't be soldiers. It would be information. He wouldn't waste expensive missiles on the front line. Instead, he would use drones to create chaos. Hundreds of false movements, fake armoured columns, decoy supply convoys, electronic distractions. Every radar screen would show something different. Every commander would receive conflicting reports. The battlefield would become a puzzle, and Napoleon loved puzzles. While the enemy searched for the main attack, there wouldn't be one, at least not yet. Napoleon rarely attacked everywhere. He attacked exactly where victory mattered most. One weak point, one mistake, one opportunity, then everything happened at once. This strategy has a name. Modern militaries call it creating a decisive point. Napoleon mastered it over 200 years ago. The technology changed. Human psychology didn't. Now imagine this. A modern commander sees thousands of pieces of information every minute. Satellite images, drone footage, intelligence reports, radio traffic. It's overwhelming. Napoleon wouldn't try to see everything. He would look for one opening, one moment when the enemy loses balance. Then he would strike with overwhelming force, fast, relentless, before anyone could react. History tells us something remarkable. Napoleon didn't win because he had the biggest army. Many times he didn't. He won because he made his opponents solve 10 different problems while he focused on only one. Modern technology would make that strategy even more dangerous. Not because machines fight wars, because they allow great commanders to think faster. But there's one problem. The US Army isn't led by inexperienced commanders. It has decades of combat experience, advanced logistics, elite intelligence, and perhaps the most powerful air force in history. Napoleon wouldn't have an easy victory. Far from it. Every mistake would be punished immediately. Every delay could be fatal. For the first time in his career, he would face an opponent capable of matching his speed. So, would Napoleon win? Nobody knows. History can never answer that question. But perhaps we've been asking the wrong one. The real question isn't whether Napoleon could master modern technology. It's this. If the greatest military genius in history were alive today, how many modern generals would be confident enough to fight against him? Because weapons can be copied, technology can be stolen, but genius has always been far more difficult to replace. Thanks for watching. Could Napoleon defeat the US Army with modern technology? Everyone thinks this question has an obvious answer. The US Army has tanks, stealth aircraft, satellites, drones, precision missiles. Napoleon had horses, cannons, and muskets, so the battle would be over in minutes, right? Not necessarily, because this question isn't really about weapons. It's about the man using them. Napoleon Bonaparte wasn't just another general. He completely changed the way wars were fought. Before Napoleon, armies often moved slowly. Generals waited, reacted, played it safe. Napoleon did the opposite. He moved faster than anyone thought possible. He attacked where nobody expected, and by the time his enemy understood what was happening, the battle was already lost. Now imagine something impossible. Napoleon wakes up today. He doesn't need to learn how to fire a rifle. He doesn't need to pilot a fighter jet. He doesn't need to drive a tank, because that's not what made him dangerous. His real weapon was his mind. Instead of giving Napoleon a sword, you give him access to satellite imagery, military drones, encrypted communications, artificial intelligence, real-time battlefield intelligence. Suddenly, every weakness he ever had disappears. During the Napoleonic Wars, messages could take hours to arrive. Sometimes an entire battle changed before orders reached the front line. Napoleon often had to guess. Today, there is no guessing. Every drone becomes another pair of eyes. Every satellite watches enemy movement. Every vehicle reports its location instantly. For most commanders, that's useful. For Napoleon, it's revolutionary. Here's why. Most modern generals use technology to collect information. Napoleon would use information to create confusion. That's a huge difference. One of his favorite strategies was simple. Never fight an enemy at full strength. Separate them, confuse them, force them to move, then destroy one isolated force before the others could help. He repeated this strategy across Europe over and over again. And it worked. Now imagine drones flying over the battlefield, not to destroy tanks, not to launch missiles, but to deceive. Napoleon would send false movements, fake supply convoys, decoy attacks. He would make the enemy believe the main assault was happening in one direction, while his real strike force appeared somewhere completely different. Modern technology doesn't just make Napoleon stronger, it makes deception faster than ever before. And Napoleon understood one thing better than almost anyone in history. The easiest battle to win is the battle your enemy never expected. But this raises an even bigger question. If Napoleon completely changed warfare 200 years ago, what would he change today? Because the next thing he would transform wouldn't be the battlefield. It would be the way modern armies think.